Welcome to the Grandma's Wealth Wisdom podcast. This is episode number 58 with Mike Michalowicz. Really excited to welcome him to the podcast. Let me give you his official bio here. Mike Michalowicz, you can look how to spell that in the intro or the title of this episode. But he's the author of Profit First, Clockwork, Surge, The Pumpkin Plan, and his newest release called Fixed This Next. Try to say that 5 times fast. By his 35th birthday, Mike had founded and sold 2 companies, one to a private equity firm and another to a Fortune 500 company. Today, he is running his 3rd multi-million-dollar venture, Profit First Professionals. Mike is a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal and the former business makeover specialist on MSNBC. Over the years, Mike has traveled the globe speaking with thousands of entrepreneurs, and he's here with us today to share the best of what he has learned. Before we welcome him, I think Brandon wants to tell a quick story.
So first thing I want to say is we are actually Profit First Professionals now.
Woo, got the shirt. It's official.
Yep, it's official. We did this because it goes well with what we do with Grandma's Wealth Wisdom for sure. And we did it because of knowing what's happening economically in the world. And so we decided, hey, we need to teach others the system that has worked for us.
It's like everything with Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. We take what we are learning about and we see working for us and for other individuals, and we share that message with the world, right? And Profit First, before Brandon tells the story how we got the book, I heard about it the first time on a podcast, just like you're listening to today, and thought, oh, I listened to the podcast, I know what to do, I'll just figure it out. And then Brandon will take the story from there.
So Amanda, of course, she thinks she knows all of that. I listened to the book Profit First on Audible, and I was like, oh, this is a really good book. I like profit. I want that. And as a business owner, I never really experienced it when we owned our coffee shop as much. Even paying ourselves was a hard thing. And again, we share that in previous stories. But listen to this book, and I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we know about this? We should have implemented this when we started our business. However, it wasn't written yet. So anyway, I listened to the book, was listening to the podcast that they have, and they say, well, if you write a review, you can get a free copy of the book. And I was like, hey, I can get a free copy of the book. I'll write a review. And so I wrote a review, got it in the mail, and it was around Christmas time, right? So I gave Amanda the book as a Christmas gift, and I didn't have to pay for it at all. Nothing. I didn't even have to pay for shipping. Got the book for free, and Amanda got a book for Christmas, and that was probably one of her best Christmas gifts, and I didn't even have to buy it.
Awesome. If you're seeing the video version of this podcast, you see the book on the shelf right behind Brandon. That is the book that he wrapped up under the Christmas tree. And I started reading it on Christmas, I think, and I just devoured it. I loved it so much. By New Year's, I'd read the full thing, and we were implementing Profit First fully starting then, and it's totally transformed how we do business. So if you haven't checked out Profit First, be sure to do that. If you'd like a Profit First professional to help guide you through how to implement Profit First in your business, think of us as your guides. We'd love to talk with you what that's like. We'll share at the end of the episode how to get us as your guide on that journey. But for now, we want to make sure that you get the amazing value that Mike brings in this, in what he has to share with us today. So join us in welcoming the one and only Mike Michalowicz.
Thank you, Amanda. Brandon, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're going to jump right in. So we all know COVID-19 is here. It's not going anywhere. Your mission is to end entrepreneurial poverty. There's a big risk of entrepreneurial poverty actually increasing during this time.
Poverty in general. I would
Yeah,
think.
but especially for entrepreneurs, small business
Sure.
owners, what are you seeing some entrepreneurs do that are like the best practices that you want to make sure others know about?
Yeah, there's definitely some things to do. I just got to show you, by the way, for anyone watching the video, yeah, that's how much I believe it. I got it all over eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. It's a life's mission. And yeah, this COVID crisis, of course, pushes some entrepreneurs to the extreme. Um, and I'll give you from a profit first context what to do. Some people ask me, oh, should I start reducing my profit first percentages? Maybe in some circumstances, increase it. Like, how should I adjust that? And my answer is don't do either. The goal with profit first is to sustain your percentages and let the business speak to you. So say I'm running a 10% profit. Every deposit comes in, 10% is going toward profit. And I continue to do that. Well, that means the OpEx is still being funded the same way. If you see decreasing cash in your OpEx, that's an indicator expenses are too high. We need to control expenses, or margins aren't present. So we got to increase margins. If you see a circumstance where you see actually the cash reserves in the OpEx account increasing, well, that means we can actually adjust the percentages in favor of profit. But you won't know that if you try to outthink the system. If you try to be one step ahead, you actually start to disarm or kind of numb your ability to be responsive. So keep the profit percentages the same. In regards to kind of the external things you can do outside the profit first system, is immediately look for ways to reinvent your business. You may not need to, but I don't consider this the Great Recession. We had that in 2008. I consider this the Great Reinvention. There's been such a shift to business, such a shift to consumer perception that things will not go back to the old ways. There's going to be a new way. And the businesses that respond and address a new level of service, a new way of positioning ourselves, are the winners. I've studied now every recession back to the 1929 Great Depression. And there's always been a common arc or sequence we go through. One of the common key factors is the thriving of small business in a recession. And I'm not saying all small businesses has a wonderful time, clearly not. But certain small businesses adjust to new demand and become the new juggernauts. The big companies today, they can't shift, they can't change overnight. They're riding cruise ships. We're in jet skis. So use this as an opportunity to reinvent your industry, and you can become the dominant force.
Awesome. I love that. It's the first part of that is kind of like there's a formula, and if you try to adjust the variables, you throw the whole formula out of whack with profit first. And then if you have a small, neat formula that's able to be adjusted, you can adjust the things like you see the X factors is changing. You can change that in a certain way rather than play with the whole formula.
Right. So the foundational financial system stays static, and then you start adjusting and addressing the external factors, and then it may force you to address your financial structure internally. And I don't just preach this stuff. I live by this. I consider myself ground zero for profit first. So I started this 12 years ago for myself, and we sustained our percentages. We then started asking our customer base. I'm an author first, and I'm a co-founder of Profit First Professionals, but I'm an author. So I reached out to my readership right when the COVID crisis became instilled, right? We were going through shutdowns and so forth in mid-March. I reached out to my readership and said, what do you need from me now? Expecting it would be like, write a book on this business tip or create videos on that. But what the feedback was from most entrepreneurs is, my confidence is shaken. I need confidence. And so that was the realization, I need to create informational, products, if you will, like books and so forth, that help entrepreneurs achieve confidence. So I actually even created this thing called the Confidence Course. And I'm not like a self-help guy whatsoever, but I created it because that's what my customer base was asking. That's what I mean by these shifts. These aren't necessarily grand swings. I'm still staying within a core competency of teaching in this case, but just to the flavor that people need it now.
Yeah. I think you sent us this in the mail.
Oh yeah, you got the recession response. Yeah, that's part of it.
And did you were you planning on writing this in January?
No, nor February, nor March 14th.
Yeah.
But March 15th hits and people say, I need confidence. We're tiny here. Cumulatively, we have 12 employees. In this specific space, there's 6 of us, not actively because of COVID, we're all remote, but in our office, there's 6 of us. And so we had a team meeting when we can still meet, and said, this is what people are saying. How do we respond? And one of our team members here, her name's Jenna, said, well, what's our recession response plan? And like, oh my gosh, that's it, recession response. So we created an online version of that, because online you can roll out, instantly. We can also measure the engagement. And that was just exploding, at least for our category. Of all the things we do, that was the most demand. And Jenna said, let's make a product that we can sell. So we seeded the market, if you will. We sent out a couple thousand of those recession response plans. And now, as we hoped for, we're getting inbound inquiries saying, hey, can I buy copies? Can I distribute these? Is there an ongoing subscription? So that was a great way to test out if that is a good confidence builder. And hopefully it's going to be.
Yeah. What does seem like perfect timing is your new book, Fix This Next. And particularly, like, we've read the Audible or listened to the
awesome.
Audible version.
How did you like the Audible?
Loved it. Right. I'm a big Audible fan.
Me too.
And I love the business hierarchy of needs, especially like then seeing it visual and having that tie into the book. I did have to like see it visually to help that out. But it seems like that idea, it's kind of a stability pyramid, right? It's a very stable way to think about your business with this hierarchy of needs. I imagine that's bringing a lot of stability to businesses right now in such an unstable world. Are you seeing that from the response?
It is. So, I'm really lucky, and part of the luck is by design, is that I invite readers or listeners of my books, reach out to me. I'll get it. I'll check out the message. And I now actually have a system. We get so many messages. We're getting one every 20 minutes on average. So, 3 or 4 an hour. So that means like there's 60, 70 emails a day of readers reaching out. And with that wonderful feedback is how people are feeling about it. The business hierarchy of needs is the internal DNA, if you will, for a business. It's the genetic code. Just like 99.9% of all humanity is identical. We all have the same genetic code. We just judge each other on the outside factors: voice, gender, skin color. Well, in business, we judge business, on the external factors. Oh, you're a manufacturer. I'm an accountant. Oh, you're an accountant. I own a pizza shop. We're so different. But when you look at the genetic code of business, it's 99.9% the same. So I said, let's unwind this code and have a representation of it. That became the business hierarchy of needs. It's the 5 levels of needs. And what it does, and within the 5 levels, there's what's called core needs. Basically, the code has 25 elements. But what it allows business owners to do is pinpoint, oh, this is where I am right now in this moment, to focus on one thing, where traditionally business owners focus on nothing. It's this constant rush to do all the apparent issues, which is different than urgent. Urgent is something that's demanding our time. Apparent is this next thing in front of us. And you may come into work with a plan, but once you look at email, there's 99 apparent things you can do, and the stream of questions outside your door and the paper stacked up on your desk. So we just keep doing the apparent. It feels good because we're doing stuff, but businesses stay in the cycle of not moving forward. The business hierarchy of needs is a way to prioritize the true one, most vital need the business has itself. And if you concentrate your energy there, that's what actually starts moving this business forward permanently and stops that, hamster wheel.
Yeah. And I imagine of all the things businesses could do to respond to COVID and, recession times, that helps people see like, what is the way that I should respond and what does my business need right now?
That's exactly right. So, many of us rely on our gut, our instinct. And my gut says, oh, everyone's running Facebook ads or not running Facebook ads, and we follow the herd. I need to, we got to ramp up efficiencies in our organization right now. It gets so inefficient. The problem is when we trust our gut and don't back it with empirical data, it often fails us. The irony is in our self-preservation, in our personal lives, our instinct is great. Like if the 3 of us went out to dinner, like, hey, let's head back to the hotel at the conference center or whatever, and we decide to take a shortcut down a dark alley, and all of a sudden we're like, something doesn't feel right. We better trust those instincts and turn around and get out of there. That's our senses triggering a gut emotion because we have sight, smell, touch. The thing is, our sensory inputs are not connected to our business. We don't see from our business's vantage point. We can't smell or touch or taste. We are not neurologically wired into our business. So our guts are great for self-preservation, not good for business preservation. And that's why we need a simple chart the business hierarchy of needs, to pinpoint where we are, look at some empirical data, the data within your business to validate it, and then take action. Don't trust your gut alone. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
I like the stability pyramid for us is financial stability. We call it grandma's 10-10-10 savings rule. And you have 10% towards long-term, 10% towards short-term, 10% towards like immediate kind of things. And then you live out, and it's kind of like the hierarchy of needs and that. And so I like that stability piece from a personal standpoint. And when you had this come out, I was like, hey, that's exactly what we do from a personal, and it gives something more tangible for the business, and saying like, how do we build stability in your business and maintain stability? And I feel like a lot of businesses are upside down pyramids.
Yeah.
And what we maybe are going to have to say is, how do we build these new businesses up and build stability?
Brandon, I'm going to paraphrase Warren Buffett. This is not his exact quote, but he says something like, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're experiencing in business. Is, to your point, a lot of businesses had the pyramid upside down. They were saying, I'm all about impact. My community's going to love me. I'm going to build something phenomenal here, and they're going to come. I'm going to build a legacy, something that lives on permanently. And the sales will happen. You don't have to worry about profit. It just comes when you have sales. So they were focusing on the things 3 or 4 steps down the road without worrying about that 10% for immediate needs, as you're pointing out.
Yeah.
And we have to get those elements. We have to get sales and profit into our organization, because that's cash flow. It's the lifeblood of a business. You see right now in this economy, I'm in a little town called Boonton, New Jersey. It's a small town, maybe 5,000 residents. There's quite a few, small mom and pop type businesses here. And I can count now. I used to count on one hand, then two. Now it takes all my fingers, all my toes to count how many businesses have gone out of business.
Yep.
They were focused on serving the community and being cool or great. They weren't focused on great finances. And now they're paying the ultimate cost, which means they're out of business.
Yeah. We used to be a coffee shop, ran a coffee shop and independent owners. And the reason we fell into profit first is because we were those type people that were all about the legacy and all about taking care of everybody else. And maybe we would pay ourselves, hopefully.
Right.
And we learned we need to do something different. And profit first was like, oh, this is amazing. We should have done this.
It's funny. I take it to an extreme now. So, I'm so happy you realize that you have to take care of yourself. And there's that saying, put the oxygen mask on you so that you can breathe and put on someone else. I take it to an extreme. I actually now believe it's selfish not to be profitable. Mm-hmm. Because here's what happens. If that coffee shop of yours that you had, or your business now, or anyone starts focusing on simply legacy and growing and impact and all that stuff and ignores profit, that will mean there's more and more dependency on them. They're the only free resource, the business owner, to the business, which means they have to work harder and longer hours, which also means you're blockading employees from working those jobs. We are experiencing the highest degree of unemployment since the Great Depression right now. And I think it's shameful that entrepreneurs are working harder at the work, which prevents people that want to work from getting those jobs. You see, 7% of the world population are business owners. This is us. We're the whack jobs. We're the ones like, oh, I got an idea. Let's do this. It's crazy what we did. Our job is to provide jobs, not to do the work. It's to design the outcome and facilitate other people doing the work. So it's selfish of us to also do all the work. We have to be profitable. We have to do that so we can facilitate this vision we have, and it opens up positions for people who just want to work. And the majority of the world just wants a good job. We have to provide that.
Yeah. So a lot of our listeners are kind of those micro businesses. They have 5 or less employees, or they're the solo entrepreneur. What advice would you have for them to be able to have that legacy, to have that impact, but to stay focused as well on, sales and profit and running a smart, stable business?
Yeah. So I said, as we said in the beginning, I think it's a great reinvention. I'm a micro business +6. So collectively, there's 12. So I get it. And we're going through these different stages. The key in this environment is to reinvent. And the greatest way to reinvent is to humbly ask your clients or past clients, how you can serve them now. If your business is slowed down, the asset you still have is the past clients. They will always be your past clients. Contact them and say, how can I serve you now? I'll give you an example of how not to do it. And I'll use a big juggernaut brand just because it was funny and it's happened to me from this company repeatedly. It's Chevy. I own a freaking Chevy. The car is fine. And I thought Chevy was fine. And now I'm like, oh, Chevy is the most annoying company on the planet to me. I got an email from them right when the COVID crisis was really kicking in March. And it opens up with the worst line you can open up an email communication with. It says, we're all in this together. And I'm like, oh, thank you for placating me. Here we go. Then it went on to say, at Chevy, we care about you. And I'm like, bullshit, thank you. It said, during this crisis, we have cleaned our facilities, we've done all these things. And if you are ready to start traveling, we're ready to change your oil. And I'm thinking, start traveling. We are on quarantine. You're saying, oh, Mike, leave your infected city to go to a bigger infected city? Thank you, Chevy. And then it goes on and it says, are you ready to buy a new car? Who's buying a new car right now? It actually did the polar opposite. Maybe a smart decision from the CFO to market into this. Shame on the CMO at Chevy to approve a message like that. So thoughtless, so inconsiderate. Now, here's the flip side. United Airlines, who, ironically, I'm not a fan of United Airlines. I fly United Airlines because I must. They're my hub. But they did something that really impressed me. They get a +1, where Chevy got a -1. United Airlines emails me around the same time, and they said, we hope this message finds you well, but at the same time, we cannot comprehend what you're experiencing. That was a great opening line. Mm-hmm. To realize that everyone's experience with the pandemic is different. Some people's business is normal. Some people it's frustration. Other people, it's health concerns and harm. United did the right thing in acknowledging they can't acknowledge or know what I'm experiencing. They got my attention. Then the message was, instead of the diatribe I got from Chevy, like 15 paragraphs, this was just one short paragraph. It said, like many of our customers, you may not be traveling right now. We simply want you to know, for being a past loyal customer, we've extended your loyalty card benefit things for another year or two. And I was like, hey, thanks, United. I didn't have to do anything, and they simply took care of me. And the last email said, if we can serve you in another or new way, please tell us. That's the way to do it. United contacted me again, maybe 2-3 weeks later. It said, hey, we see an upcoming flight coming up in this July, right when we're recording this. It says, you may have forgot to cancel that trip. We want you to realize you get a full refund if you do it. And if you want to still take the trip, we're ready to fly you. I'm like, thanks, United. And there's a new way we can serve you. Please tell us. That's excellent communication. And I'm challenging micro enterprise to leverage that knowledge. Reach out to your current or past patrons and say, we can't understand how you're being affected here. We just want you to know we're wishing you well. Mm-hmm. If there's a new way we can serve, we're open for business in the old way, but we realize you may need us a new way. If you do need us a new way, tell us how, and we'll do the best to accommodate you. That's the way to communicate, in my opinion.
Love it. Thank you so much for all the great value you've shared with our podcast audience. We look forward to sending them to MikeMichalowicz.com. We'll tell them how to spell that.
Yeah. There's a shortcut now, by the way. You can go to MikeMotorbike.com. That was my nickname in high school. That was my G-rated nickname in high school. There's others. But you can go to MikeMotorbike.com, and that's the shortcut to get there.
Awesome. And of course, checking out the Profit First Nation podcast, yes, or Entrepreneurship Elevated as a great podcast too.
I think you have quite a few. I'm not sure how many podcasts you got. You're on
yeah. So I'm going a little bit crazy. So Profit First Nation is hosted by Daniel Mulvey, but I'm the co-host on that show. It's a great way to explore Profit First in the deepest way, to really get technical on it. Entrepreneurship Elevated is the elevation of entrepreneurs. It's exploring ways to grow. And we're just about to retire that show. We did our 350 episodes. It's ready to be binged. And I'm starting a new show called Mike Up in Your Business, where we're digging deep into tough topics. We talk about racism. We talk about a business that got looted during the civil unrest. We explore stuff that affects entrepreneurs that isn't talked about commonly.
I look forward to hearing that.
Thank you.
Anything you want to end with before we let you go?
Yeah, sure. So I just want to encourage any of your listeners to take immediate action that will bring permanent profitability to their business. Today, right now, you can call or email your bank and get a account set up. And I want you to get a savings account set up and call it Profit. Starting today, you can take 1% of your income and start allocating it. What happens here is you'll start allocating a cash profit to your business. Perhaps for the first time ever, you'll see cash accumulating. And that's not the entire Profit First system. In fact, I just scratched the surface. But that one little small step, at least for me and for 350,000 plus businesses now that do it, got them addicted to the Profit First way and making them more profitable than ever before. So no excuse. You can get started on that today.
Awesome.
Okay, now wasn't that amazing, the information that Mike shared? And there's so many ways to dig in. If you liked his style, if you like what he's sharing, there's so many different ways to learn more from him, from the numerous books that he shared, from the podcast he mentioned. I mean, I can't wait for Mike Up in Your Business. That sounds like a great podcast that I look forward to listening to. I had a couple really big takeaways from what he shared, but before I share those, Brandon, anything that was a big takeaway for you?
I mean, I think it's just amazing to have him on our channel and on our podcast, to have somebody who has been through the challenge of entrepreneurship. I mean, I see a lot of people, and we talked about this in a previous video, where they teach entrepreneurship, but they haven't lived it. Or they are entrepreneurs and they're poor. People think you're so rich because you're an entrepreneur, but yet oftentimes we're last to get paid. And I really liked what he said about it's a disservice not to be profitable. I think that was huge. And if you're taking jobs away, if you're not setting up that business in a solid way, that was a huge takeaway for me. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah. A couple things for me. He talked about the great reinvention, and it's kind of very similar to what Perry Marshall shared about in our last episode, where he talked about the age of agility. And Perry was saying he thinks there's more black swans coming, right? And that we need to be agile to adjust when those come. And I think Mike just reaffirmed that, calling it the great reinvention, and making sure we've got lean businesses that can pivot, right? That we're on jet skis instead of cruises. I'm going to use that analogy going forward. I've used the analogy of like a charging Rhino versus maybe a Chevy. It's been my analogy in the past. A charging Rhino's got the blinders on. They keep going in the same direction no matter what happens. Whereas a well-designed, fuel-efficient car can turn really quickly, even if they're going at 65 miles per hour. And that speaks to, what Mike's talking about with the jet ski versus the cruise ship. Which one can turn and be agile and reinvent themselves most quickly, right? The cruise industry right now versus the jet ski industry right now. I wonder which one is doing better. And then if you take that metaphor, right, and you apply it. And then we've used the other thing with when the Warren Buffett, when the tide goes out, you see who's been swimming naked, and what businesses have been relying just on their cash flow and living paycheck to paycheck or sale to sale, can be really eye-opening during a time like this. But the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway is this idea of confidence. I think confidence comes from clarity. And what I love about Profit First, what I love when the most recent book, Fix This Next, and seeing that business hierarchy of needs, the BHN, if you want to abbreviate, is that it's all about clarity. It's giving you the eyes to see what's really happening. When you are following the Profit First system, or you're using that BHN, the business hierarchy of needs, you get the clarity. And guess what? That clarity often gives you confidence that you're on the right track. And you can apply that to having a financial plan on your personal side too, and having that strategy that should give you the clarity of where you are, where you're going, how you're going to get there, which hopefully will give you tons of confidence that you're on the right track, that you're doing things right, but not so much confidence that you're not willing and able to change and stay humble and be able to ask your clients, how should I change, right? Or not be able to ask yourself, where has my spending gone awry, or where am I investing where I should be saving, and stuff like that too. There's a lot of nice, if you want to go deep into it, you totally can, right?
I mean, I think, again, that whole confidence thing and having confidence, if you have a stable financial pyramid in your personal life, if you have that in your business, you are going to be able to, again, confidence is going to probably breed more money. If you have confidence, the people that make money are usually the ones that are, hey, I'm good, I'm solid, because they are good and they're solid. Yeah. And I think, but also humility to be able to cut expenses, make sure you're making those decisions. And if you have that roadmap set forth, you're able to pivot and change. And again, going back to that previous episode too, it was like very similar, where he was saying having confidence in your calling in your business is going to breed creation of we're going to solve problems. We're going to do a lot of other things. So that was one of the things that I think was very interesting. These guys should both have coffee together, I think.
They totally should. I hope, Perry and Mike, that you all meet and get to talk shop and become best friends. Because you've both of these guys have been huge sources of inspiration to us. And we're really excited to share them with you, our listeners. A couple things to wrap up here. We've got more interviews coming your way, so stay tuned for more from our summer of interviews. And if you want to learn more about Profit First, and you want to, maybe you've looked into it before, but you're like, I don't know if this could work for me, or maybe you're hearing about it for the first time, and you're kind of curious, but you're also skeptical that, this is just another, scheme. Maybe it's a pyramid scheme, or because we have been talking about pyramids, or maybe it's just another one of those fads that's going to die out in a few years. We're here to tell you that we don't think that's true, that we think this is a system that can work for any business because it's adaptable. It is a formula that you can smartly and strategically change that formula for your business. And we'd love to help you figure out the right way to do that. So if you're at all interested in checking that out, figuring out if Profit First is right for you, or if you think maybe it's right for you and you want some additional help implementing it, go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com/profit. grandmaswealthwisdom.com/profit, and you can find out all kinds of details there about how we're helping people to profit first from their business and increase their profitability through the Profit First strategy. I think that's it. Go ahead, start doing that 1% shift to savings that Mike shared. If you do nothing else, just do that, and you'll see how revolutionary that simple shift can become. And in the meantime, we hope that you break through to a smart, stable financial future using the time-tested wisdom from the greatest generation.
The topics presented in this podcast are for information use only and not for the use of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.